What's up, everyone? Hope everybody out there is off to a great Wednesday. Here it is, day 8 of this NASCAR trial, moving right along. As I brought up yesterday, Judge Bell saying he wanted the team's attorneys to have the rest of their witnesses on the stand yesterday. Pretty wild that they've actually got through a lot of this. I did not expect that to happen. But NASCAR executives getting on the stand, as well as Richard Childress. So we had some juicy testimony yesterday, as well as the NASCAR executives who seem to have a lot of brain fog going on right now. So we're going to get to all that. But first, I want to start out with a letter from Hendrick Motorsports, Rick Hendrick, that was read in the courtroom. And this went on to display that Rick Hendrick said he had a lot of respect for the France family, but calling the negotiations very ineffective. And also stating that over the last 5 years, the Hendrick Motorsports has won 2 championships, but they've also lost $20 million. And said, hey, man, I'll show you my audited statements. You can take a look at it, see for yourself I'm correct with this. And also went on to say that the way that they feel with NASCAR right now is that NASCAR thinks that they bring no value to the series, that their rights are worthless in the series, and also called the offer from France a slap in the face. So, saying I don't like this deal, man. Kind of popped me in the face with that one. So let's get to Richard Childress before we get to the brain fog of the NASCAR executives. And there's a lot of questioning about Richard Childress with so many different aspects. But through the questioning right here, it was kind of evident to me that Richard Childress is probably the one who asked the court not to have his financial records or the team's financial records brought in, wanted the courtroom sealed kind of for that, for reasons we're going to get to through this right here. But Childress went on to say that he had to sign this charter agreement right here. He had basically been out of business, and went on to say that he really wanted these permanent charters because down the road he wants to give the race team, RCR, to his grandsons, Ty and Austin Dillon. And, man, these NASCAR attorneys, they went after Childress right here, asking him, hey, is your race team profitable? Are you making money on this right here? To which Childress replied, yeah, I guess so. But Childress went on to testify that this is because of other businesses that he has that help pay the bills for his NASCAR team right here. And these include ECR engines, and they provide motors to racers in several different series across the country. And also his manufacturing shop that provides chassis work to the now O'Reilly Auto Parts series, as well as does some weapon and vehicle work for the military. And on top of that, he's got Childress Vineyards up there in Lexington, North Carolina, which opened in 2004, which, by the way, is hosting a sold-out Christmas Carol dinner for winemakers this weekend. So pretty cool, RC. Go there, boy. But Childress went on to say, man, it shouldn't take all my other ventures here in business to cover my NASCAR fees right here. I'd rather NASCAR pay for itself, and saying I should be putting this money in the bank. I shouldn't have to be spending this on these race teams, but that's the way it is right now. Now, NASCAR attorneys were able to get under Richard Childress' skin with further questioning, asking him questions that he didn't want to answer. And a lot of this was because he has non-disclosure agreements with the people that he's dealing with and these other things that were coming out in court. But Judge Bell told him that, hey, man, you're under oath. I don't make the rules. I don't make the laws, but you kind of got to do this. So Richard had to go on with this questioning. And they went on to ask him, hey, how much of RCR Richard Childress Racing do you own? And Richard Childress went on to say that he owns 60% of RCR, the team that's got his own name on it. He owns 60% of it. And a private equity firm, Chartwell Investments, owns the other 40 remaining percent of this right here. Now, Chartwell Investments, a little about them. They got over 50 years of experience in investment business and everything else. They got recent transactions with a value of over $900 million worth of deals here. And they currently have 24 add-on acquisitions where they provide flexible private equity to entrepreneurs and family-owned businesses. So obviously RCR being a very historic family business right here. And it was also discovered that last summer that Richard Childress was in talks with Bobby Hillin Jr., the former NASCAR driver, a name we don't hear much about anymore, but was in talks with him to purchase part of RCR. And this is wild to me right now because so many people suspected that Dale Jr. would come in, and this was his path to get into the Cup Series by maybe becoming a partner with RCR, maybe eventually taking it all over, which now we know that the Dillon boys are going to do that in the long run. But to see Bobby Hillin Jr. could have owned part of RCR, pretty wild to think. But this deal would have seen Hillen putting together this group of people right here that would acquire shares from both sides of RCR right here, meaning they would get part of the shares from Richard Childress and also part from the equity partners. And again, this is all testimony that Richard Childress just did not want to talk about, but Judge Bell required him to do so. So with this, Childress went on to state that Chartwell was looking to get out of NASCAR. They didn't want a part of this no more. They wanted to head out, and that Hillen had contacted him with an inquiry about a possible ownership role in RCR right here. And the concept was a plan to basically acquire a third charter, something that we know that they've talked about in the past. But in the end, Childress issued a termination letter to Bobby Hillen Jr. right here, and just basically stated that they wanted to do things in ways and everything else that they simply didn't have the money for. So he had to just bring that into an end. But it was also brought up through discovery right here that Hillen had an audit done over everything that takes place at Richard Childress Racing right here, and it shows that for every year over the last 55 years of RCR's existence, that it's shown a profit. So, but again, Richard's saying, yeah, we got a profit, but I got all these other businesses that we're throwing this money in here to make this happen. Now let's move over here to these NASCAR executives as they get up on the stand. As I say, so many people just seem to have a bad memory here when they hit the courtroom. But Phelps was asked about an email that he did to Rick Hendrick telling him that he wished he could give him permanent charters in this situation right here, but Jim France, he wasn't going to do it. He didn't want to do it. But in the courtroom, Phelps said, I don't remember that. Can't remember that. He was also asked why NASCAR started placing more extensive, exclusive agreements on the racetracks about the time that the Race Team Alliance started looking at a midweek dirt racing series or possibly the XRX series. And Phelps went on to state that he had no idea. Even though that he had constructed these texts at the time that were saying that they needed to put a knife in the trash series, meaning the SRX series. And this is a point that Kessler brought up, that the SRX series is now dead, and pointing out this is something that happens to things when you stick a knife in them. Pretty cool evaluation right there. But Phelps stated that he was frustrated not only with the team owners, but just with everything that was going on right here. That they were racing in a series that had sponsors, colors, and liveries that looked a lot like NASCAR. Now, I want you to take a look at this right here. Take a look at these two right here. Let you be the judge if these look alike, the cars look alike, if a series is running through the summer, a short schedule, on short tracks, they look alike. Or is this just the fear right here that this series was going to grow to something bigger, as we've alluded to with the Speedway Motorsports connections that NASCAR put a stop to. But in any case, this led to Phelps stating NASCAR had lots of options, and everything pointed out to one distinct theme over and over again, where he just said, let's pick a date, and they can sign these agreements, or they can lose their charters, something that we keep hearing about right here. But prior to court, there were both texts and emails from Phelps showing that he had frustrations, not only with these team owners, but also with Jim France. But in court on Tuesday, he said he had forgotten a lot of these details right here, including saying that he would fight to protect their space from any other competitive series. So a lot of things he said, a lot of things he don't remember. And this is a thought process that carried over to Jim France right here. As he went on, he got up there and proclaimed, I got a lot of friendship with these NASCAR owners. They're my friends, almost business partners, I guess you could say in some ways, but maybe not. But even with letters and calls and everything from people like Roger Penske, Joe Gibbs, Rick Hendrick, Richard Childress, Jack Roush, all these people asking, pushing for permanent charters. Jim France, even though he considers these people friends, he refused. But as with Phelps right here, again, suddenly in court, he doesn't remember any of these things right here with his friends. He doesn't remember any of these team owners expressing this desire for things like permanent charters. Just, it's not up there anymore, apparently. France went on to say in regards to a phone call from Joe Gibbs, something that Heather Gibbs brought up in her testimony, where Joe Gibbs was pleading with Jim France, saying, please, don't do this to us. He said, I don't see myself saying anything like this, and especially the part about saying if I only have 20 charters. I only got 20 charters when I wake up. So he's saying, I don't remember saying any of that stuff. That's not like me. But this seemed to be a tactic that he used throughout the court, with not wanting to answer questions with a formal answer, let's say that. And he replied to a lot of the questions with answers like, I'm not sure, I'm not aware of that, I don't recall, or I don't know. So he summed a lot of the questions up. Some people have even said 90% of the questions that he just basically said, I don't remember. Sorry. But Kessler used the tactic of reading the letter that Heather Gibbs had wrote to Jim France. And what he did was he read this word for word out loud in the courtroom. He was trying to get a reaction out of Jim France right this. But at the end of this, France stated, he said, man, that letter didn't make me upset. I didn't get mad about nothing like this. And also going on to say, I don't ever remember reading that letter out loud. I don't think that happened. But it was brought up that there was testimony already from Steve O'Donnell where this had happened. So maybe, again, maybe I did. Who knows? But there was also a 2021 meeting in which NASCAR leaders met to prepare for the upcoming NASCAR negotiations right here, where France said, I don't remember being involved in any of this either. And he was shown an email from O'Donnell pertaining to that meeting, and precisely that during that meeting, France had displayed that he was not in favor of giving the teams any of the main things that they wanted the most with this right here. And when shown the testimony, the discovery about this right here, he just said, well, God, appears that I might have been there. I don't remember. So pretty wild. Apparently a good time for Prevagen to start sponsoring a NASCAR team. Damn. Court is wild. Let's just say that. But man, there was also some things brought up that the teams, NASCAR considers teams do got some seat at the table right now, but going on to say, yeah, they don't have no veto power. They have no decision-making power in anything like this. Stuff that the teams have been fighting for. But man, I find this very interesting that people are just forgetting about stuff. But I will say this, Jim France is back on the stand today. There's testimony coming out today from him that's a little more describing of things, got more details to it. So look forward to sharing all that with you tomorrow. And man, again, how you feel about everything right now? Is anything changing your mind? Is this pretty wild that people just are forgetting stuff? Do you think this is on purpose? Or do you think just in general there's so much going on, just can't remember? And what about RC? Owning 60% of the business he's had forever that his name is on the side of. Wild to think Bobby Hillin Jr. could have been a part owner in NASCAR with RCR. But anyways, throw me your thoughts out there. As always, I appreciate your comments, appreciate you watching. And I will say, man, a little bit warmer of a day around here in North Carolina, so a lot better day for people at the courtroom. And man, hope you're having a great day. As always, we'll see you at the checkered flag.